and welcome to Visibility Unlimited and Visibility Unlimited Spotlight, the video portion to Visibility Unlimited. I'm Leslie Short, your host and the founder of the Cavu Group. I am looking forward to my conversation today. As you know, I always do, my listeners and watchers. I am speaking to Reggie Shower. Reggie is beyond social impact, beyond disability, beyond business. He is a force to be reckoned with. Reggie, welcome.
Thank you, Leslie. You were too kind.
Listen, when everyone hears not only your personal story, but just what you are doing in the world um, to enhance not only yourself, but so many others, trust me, they would be like, you didn't say it enough. You did not say enough. So, Reggie, I know this conversation is going to focus on a bit of disability, what that means, what people think it means, what people think people can do once they have that label, unfortunately, of someone with a disability. But that's not how your life started.
No, I was just a little boy growing up in West Philadelphia, born and raised. I was the youngest of six kids, so I had a lot of support, a lot of positive influences in my life, and my main role model, obviously, and thank God I had my dad, who was a force to be reckoned with. He was a man of service. He was a grocery store owner in West Philadelphia, small business, corner store, little tiny bodega type deal, and had everything in his grocery store. And we grew up working in the store. He was my role model, taught me how to interact with people, and he was a really amazing problem solver. And he taught me those problem solving skills early on in life. I didn't know that I was getting this life lesson, but it laid a pathway for me to be able to overcome some of the challenges that I've overcome from some of my traumatic injuries that I received, and then got to be a member of the disabled community. So never really thought about myself as being disabled. I was like, this is just a problem that I'm going to have to overcome. Dad told me I can do it. He's shown me through his example that we can fix this. We can fix just about anything. So I went into my entrance into disability. I went into it with a positive outlook. So
And that I'm going to say is 9 out of 10, probably very rare. Uh,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yes.
especially when you didn't start, you weren't born with a disability. It was a tragic situation that happened to you. You could have gone so many different directions.
Absolutely.
And to this day, you could still be mad. But yet, that is not your case. Can you share a bit when you entered into the disability community, why, and how you've been able to turn that around?
So my anniversary is actually coming up on May 30th. I'm sorry. Excuse me, 1978. I was out playing with some friends of mine, and we, back then in those days, there was no internet, there was no PlayStation, there was no Xbox. And we had outside, and we went outside and played. And sometimes a lot of the playgrounds, so to speak, that we played in were very dangerous playgrounds. We were very adventurous kids. I know I was a very adventurous kid, climbed on top of a lot of houses, explored vacant houses and stuff. And one of the playgrounds that we played on was a train yard. And we used to climb on top of the train boxcars that were parked. We used to go inside of the ones that were open and explore. And I mean, every kid loves trains. Christmas time, you got a train set. This was our gigantic train set. And this one particular day that I went out was Memorial Day, 1978. And I climbed on top of one of these boxcars, and I got too close to an overhead power wire that was extended over the boxcar. A lot of these trains use electricity for power. Some of them are diesel locomotive, others were electrical. And I got too close to that wire, and there was 13,000 volts of electricity going through that wire, and that wire, the electricity arced and hit me, just like a cloud. You have a lightning bolt would come out of a cloud and strike the ground, which is the ground point.
Right.
That arc of electricity used me as a conduit from the wire to the ground. So yeah, it hit me, and the energy from that 13,000 volts was just so powerful. It knocked me right out. I was knocked unconscious immediately. So I didn't feel any pain. I don't remember the overall feeling.
Right.
You know, that's the body's safety mechanism. So fortunately, my friends, you know, they saw what happened, and they ran in and called the police, and the police got fire and rescue. They had to shut the power off on the wire before they could go up there and get me down. It's funny, I woke up on top of the boxcar. I remember it was a blue sky, and it was a nice warm breeze, and I knew something was wrong. Excuse me, I knew something was wrong because there was an odor in the air, and the odor was, it was my skin. It was flesh that had been burned. And I was dazed and I was confused. I was in shock. So they got me down off the train, and they took me to a local hospital, diagnosed my injuries. They said we have to send him to a trauma center. So they airlifted me to a trauma center, and they diagnosed me with having third-degree burns over 35% of my body. But the most traumatic injury was to both of my legs. I had to have both of my legs amputated below the knees. So the electricity, as it exited my body at the ground point, which was my feet standing on top of this metal boxcar, it was the concentration of heat was just so powerful. It just destroyed all the flesh and tissue and stuff in my feet. So they had to remove both of my feet and amputate both legs below the knees. So, and it was really interesting. You know, I was a 14-year-old kid. I was a star basketball player. You know, JV, young boy, still learning, but very, very athletic I was. I started off as a chubby kid, so I wasn't athletic. But as I went through puberty around age 12 and 13, I lost all this weight, and I started to develop all this muscle and all this agility. And it's like, wow, you know, this is like this brand new life for me. You know, I can run, I can jump, I can, you know,
I get the girls, I get I go
girls
hang
were starting
out.
to like me, you know, and that was something that I was a little uncomfortable with because, you know, growing up, you know, girls never paid attention to me because I was chubby. But then it was like I came back from a summer, came back to school. People were like, "Who is that?" It's like, "Yo, it's Reggie. Slim down. Look how tall he is now." And this, that, and the other. And
Right.
girls start liking me. I'm like, "Whoa, get away!" You know, because you didn't like me before, and I don't know how to deal with this. But so I had a taste of this agility and this, you know, this athleticism, and then I got knocked down. So that was tormenting for me to now I'm going to have some mobility issues, and the doctor telling me, Reggie, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to amputate both of your legs. And I remember laying there on the gurney, and my parents were next to me, and my parents never once let me see them cry. They were always very, very supportive, and in hindsight, that was very beneficial for me because I needed their strength. And they told me everything's going to be okay, Reggie. We're going to work through this. And I said, oh, well, there goes my basketball career. I'm not going to be, like Julius, Dr. J. Irving. But I was okay with it. It was just this calm, and it wasn't the morphine that they had me on. It was just this calm. I was like, I'm going to be okay. This is going to be okay. So anyway, make a long story short, I spent a month in the burn center, healing up from the burns. And if anybody's ever had a burn in your lifetime, it is the most painful, one of the most horrific injuries that the human body can experience, to have your flesh burned, to third degree. It's very, very painful. The rehabilitation and the healing was a very painful month-long process. And then I had to get transferred to a rehabilitation center where they would fit me with prosthetic legs, teach me how to walk again. So that was another challenge to get my mobility back.
And that's what I also really want to speak about when you finish the prosthesis and that thought process. And did they have your color and do they have your size and what is that process? Because I
Yeah,
see so much about that.
we've come a long way. And I'm glad that we're going to touch on that. And I can start to touch on that now. Back in 1978, prosthetic leg technology and arm technology, upper and lower extremity prosthetics were archaic compared to what they are now. There was very few choices. It was like, okay, we're going to make it, we can color it to your skin type, which was off. They didn't have my skin tone right.
Right.
But there was no articulation of the digits or your toes. There was it just everything looked very geriatric. And me as a teenage kid, I didn't want anything that looked old on me. I
Mhm.
didn't want uh, a wheelchair. I was like, I refuse to use a wheelchair. I'm going to learn how to walk in these prostheses. Um, the legs themselves were very heavy, so they didn't stay on very well. They kind of compromised my mobility because of their weight. Um, I'm glad in hindsight that I had to go through the struggle of using prostheses were um, that were not very complementary to helping me walk. I had to struggle because in that struggle I developed strength. In that struggle I developed experience that helped me later on in life ambulate and at the level that I ambulate at now. Um, and it helped fuel my fire to become an advocate for the disabled community because I don't want anybody to have to go through the pain,
Right.
physical, emotional, psychological pain that I went through. I don't want anybody to have to go through that anymore. So if my voice can help to bring about change in the community, in the industry, to
Yes.
make new prostheses, new components that will help disabled people ambulate in a much more efficient and proficient manner, then I'm glad I went through all that. And I routinely now go to different universities. Michigan, I think 2 years ago, I did a study for Michigan universities, University of Michigan's kinesiology um, lab or something. We did gait training, where they had all these cameras up in the ceiling and they had put dots all over me and they tracked my motion and I had to run and I had to they had me hooked up to a breathing machine. And it's kind of like what they do with Avatar, when they do the
Yes.
movies, and they had me all dotted up with stuff. It was really cool. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I was down at the University of Pennsylvania doing a similar study. So I'm doing my part now to help the industry make better prosthetic components that will help people live a better life as amputees or as disabled people. Not only here, but this technology then spreads around the world.
So the studies, what are they looking for? Are they looking for your mobility? Are they looking for the strength? Are they looking for the range of motion when you're doing those types of studies?
Range of motion and mobility more than strength. A lot of the prosthetic components of yesterday
Mhm.
were not energy returning. So you had to expend a lot of energy just to move. Now, with a lot of different composites, carbon fiber, fiberglass, some proprietary combinations of both, you can get a lot of energy return for your energy investment. So when you take a step, that energy that is then stored and then released to help you move forward in a much easier, much more efficient manner. So if you see a lot of amputee athletes and they use those blades, they
Yes.
look like a J. Well, man, they're made out of carbon fiber, and carbon fiber can actually store and then release energy.
Mhm.
So you'll see them running, and they run like gazelle. They're that energy from the carbon fiber propels them forward. So all these studies that we do helped the industry manufacturers to develop new prosthetic feet, new prosthetic ankles, new prosthetic knees, shock absorbing systems, microprocessors, all
Mhm.
that'll help the human body ambulate, or the disabled person ambulate in a much more energy efficient or much more high performance way to ambulate. So yeah, and it takes a village. It takes a lot of us, everybody bringing all their talents. Me as a crash test dummy. They
Let's do
like, hey,
that.
you put this on. Can you try that? I'm like, yeah, let's
I'll
do
say
this.
that. But I know, and we were getting that to a second, but I want to go back to two other things because I don't want to brush over that because I've spoken about that before. One, the cost of what it was yesterday to today, and I know there's so many options today, and the color. Because I have a friend that has an ear, and I don't think they've gotten this ear right since she was a child of color. And I know that there is a woman, there was actually a TV show of a woman that does prostheses. And amazing. I speak about her. She's the only one I speak about. It's the only one I've ever seen actually getting the color right.
Wow.
You know, so
So I back in the 70s, they didn't have very many colors. There was only, one or two different prosthetic feet that were available. One particular foot that I used for many years is called a Satch foot, and Satch, SACH, Satch foot. It was basically a wooden rubber foot, but it had a like a Caucasian type color to it.
right.
So I never took my socks off, and it was just kind of round. There was no toes or
Mhm.
indentured shapes of toes like we have today. There was none of that back then.
Yeah.
Um, it was pretty rough psychologically. They didn't work very well. They made me walk kind of robotic looking. There was no shock absorption. There was no energy returning. There was no conforming. And there was no plantar flexion. There was no dorsiflexion, no inversion, no eversion when you're on uneven terrain.
Right.
All that you had to work that out within
Yeah.
your thighs and your knees and your body, your hips, and I hated people to stare at me as a child. As a young amputee, I did not want to be stared at for being different.
Right.
So I worked extremely hard to try to walk as normal as I possibly could with the prostheses that I had. But there weren't very many color options back then, and I struggled with that. I mean, yeah, they made my legs brown, but they weren't my skin tone brown. We as people of color come in all different hues and tones and shades, and then those shades change in the summertime.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. So, but yeah, it was a struggle back then. Now, because of awareness, because of people are speaking up, people are advocating, we have manufacturers that are coming out with all these different skin tones, and they have coverings that you can now have that actually have hair coming up, and they have veins, and they have toes, and a lot of the ladies are painting their toenails different colors, and they're showing off their prosthetic feet. Their feet come in different heel heights. There's
Yes.
adjustable heel heights, so a lot of ladies that want to wear high-heeled shoes, they can wear the high heel shoes and still keep their overall prosthetic alignment. That was, nothing. I mean, you could never do that back in the day. A lot of gentlemen, they want to wear boots, cowboy boots or work boots that have a nice heel on them. Well, when if you have a leg that's like this, and
Right.
then you put a heel under it, well, it changes your alignment. And back in the day, if I put a heel on, man, I was walking all jacked forward, and but now I can push a button and change my alignment. So hats off to a lot of the manufacturers, that have done the work, because of a lot of us in the community that have put the word out saying, hey, there is a need for colors. There is a need for skin tones, and we need it to look more natural. And psychologically, that's healing for us. Um,
And I don't think the average person has any idea
None
what
whatsoever.
what
None.
is happening. You hear, maybe you watch the movie and you saw someone, you know, years ago it was the peg leg, then it was the amputee, it was a mannequin. You saw, some athletes with the blades, but to understand, as you said, what you go through mentally, what you go through physically, just to be able, and I don't like this word, whatever normal,
Right.
for those that are listening, I am air quoting, yes, normal is to be part of society, when that should be the least thing you're thinking
Right.
about,
Absolutely.
as opposed to
Absolutely.
healing
Absolutely. Yep.
and moving forward. But yet, as a society, that's how we look at anyone that has any type of disability. And
Yep.
in my workshops, I have a sheet, and it has the typical. My question is asked: does disabilities affect your lives? And people look at me and like, I don't understand that. I don't understand. I said, that's the issue. You
Hmm.
don't understand the question because you've not been around anyone that has a disability, and you don't
Right.
need to think about it.
That's right. Absolutely. Yep. I tell people, a lot of my disabled brothers and sisters who are just coming into the community. This is coming up on 46 years for me. That, let me see, 46. Yeah, 46 years. I'll be an amputee this coming Memorial Day, and it's crazy. I'm thinking about that. Um, I tell a lot of my new brothers and sisters that come into the community that it sucks to have to go through a trauma, or an elective surgery, maybe it be a vascular disease or something, that you end up being an amputee. But right now is not really a bad time to have it happen because of the advancements in technology, and more importantly, it's the support. We understand that the support is vital to our emotional well-being, our psychological well-being, and a lot of times we always focus on the physical. It's always,
Right.
oh, you got to go to physical therapy. Oh, you got to build up your strength. You got to learn how to walk. Well,
Mhm.
how am I going to deal emotionally? Will ladies like me now that I'm an amputee? And for a lot of the ladies, am I going to lose some of my femininity?
Mhm.
Because then I'm wearing a prosthetic leg now. Will men find me attractive? These are valid concerns that plague us in the disabled community. And at the end of the day, we all want to be, like you said, quote unquote normal. Like, we want to be accepted within our societies. And so we have now focused on a lot of not, I mean, we're always going to focus on the physical rehabilitation,
Right.
but the emotional and the psychological rehabilitation is just as important as the physical. So,
I know there's someone that showed up to work and was, minus her hand. And she was just like, oh, I don't know if I want to put my prosthesis on. I was like, does it help you? She was like, yes. I'm like, girl, put that on. Let's go.
use
And
it.
she came back to me, years later. And she goes, I don't even think you understood what that meant to me that
Oh,
day,
preach.
because you so just didn't care.
Yep.
And I was like, why should I care if it's going to help you better? If this is how you're going to be better in what you need to do, let's go. We got other stuff we have to do. So
Right.
if you're good, I'm good. Let's go. And I hope we get to that place, because you didn't let anything hold you back.
No, I'm going to tell you something that I do try to encourage my disabled brothers and sisters to do to help bring about change in the way that we as disabled people are viewed. You know, it takes somebody who has the courage to start the conversation or to start the process to encourage others to follow suit. Now, when the public sees enough people who are facing a disability living their best lives, it becomes normal to them.
Yes.
People stare, children stare because they're curious.
Right.
They look at something that they've never seen before. They like, wow, look at that man's leg, or wow, mommy, look at that woman's arm, or look at that, that woman's got burns or whatever, because
Mhm.
they've never seen it. It's different.
Right.
But if they see it enough times, be like, oh, that's just man with a prosthetic leg. Oh, that's just a lady with a prosthetic arm. Or that woman must have been in a fire. Look, she's really recovered well, and look how well she's doing in her life. It's just like the brand new Corvette. I love, the C8 Corvette. And at first, when I saw him the first time, I was like, oh man, there's a vet, there's a vet, there's a vet. Now I've seen so many of them, I'm like, it's just another Corvette. It's the same with us. The more we show our metal, METTLE, the more we show the world or the public. I wear shorts all the time. The more people see my prosthetic legs, the more normal it becomes to society, and people, they just don't even see it after a while. So it makes it easier, but it takes a lot of courage to show your metal. And there was a time where I did not have that courage to show my prosthesis because I wasn't proud of the way that they looked back in the day, because they were, like I said, they were very geriatric, they were heavy, they were clunky. Now they're very trick. I've got composite prostheses, carbon fiber,
Right.
titanium, anodizing. They look really, really Terminator type cool. And the kids are like, wow, your legs are cool, and this, that, and the other. And that gives me the confidence to go out and show my metal even more. And then it gives other amputees who may have reservations about showing their prosthesis and getting stared at, in public. It gives them the confidence to go out and show their metal as well. And at the end of the day, like I said, it changes the perception of of society and how they view people who do live with whatever disability that they're living with. You live your best life, you get that job done. People are like, oh yeah, she's handling her business like your friend.
Exactly.
Handling, yeah, she's missing her hand, and her prosthesis is she's look at her work. It's not a big deal. It's a sign of strength. To be knocked down and then to come back. It's actually a sign of inner strength.
And I've seen, and what I love is what I've seen companies now. So I'm going to call out Target because I think they're doing an amazing job. There's others as well that have done advertisings, not on Disability Month, but throughout the year. And it was the beautiful model that had the gold leg, and she's in high fashion layouts with Vogue and this, and she's beautiful. And there's athletes, and you see the layouts of fashion magazines, and in a Target, you go in and you see, and it's just like you said, it once the public beyond that's not part of the disability community begins to see advertising and people moving and living their best life, keep it moving, say hello and keep going. Reggie, you have lived more lives than most people with your activities and the things that you have done. So I'm going to share a little bit about that now.
I'm humble.
How could I not? And I don't want to get it wrong. One, you're a pilot, correct?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. You are also a world champion in motor. I know I'm a mess this, and where did I have it written down? In the motorsports.
Motorcycle drag racing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not even motorsports. That's motorcycle drag racing. I can't get on the drag or the race or the motor. And okay. Wait, but do you jump out of planes? Did I read that somewhere?
So I have never skydived. I've never jumped out of a perfectly good airplane.
Okay.
I fly them. I don't jump out of them.
Okay. But what you do clearly is the love of how you want to live life, and the prostheses and what you have to adjust is just that, an adjustment. But it's so much more than that.
It's when I got into motorcycle drag racing back I was in my second year in college, and got talked into my first motorcycle drag race by some friends. I had a street bike, just hanging out with my friends. Another guy pulled up on a similar bike. Oh, my friend can beat your friend, and this, that, and the other. And
your parents are like this. Stop with your friends now.
They're getting talked into dumb stuff. And I couldn't let them down. They were all rooting for me. Yo, kick his ass, and this, that, and the other. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. But I didn't know that he didn't know what he was doing either. It's my competitor. He didn't know even worse than I was. But I ended up beating that guy. And nobody knew I was an amputee. My friends knew I was an amputee, but the other side, they didn't know. I had long pants on and all, but the feeling of beating a quote unquote able-bodied motorcycle rider in a race by me, an amputee, disabled motorcycle rider, was so amazing. I said, I have to pursue this feeling at all costs. I immediately, well, not immediately, but I made the decision to drop out of college. I was going to college for radio, television, and film, and communications. And I said, I've got to pursue becoming some type of motorcycle racer. I got to figure out how to make money doing this, and advertising, marketing, sponsorship. I got to figure how to do this, because this is where I belong. It was a long struggle. It was really hard for an amputee back then, using the prosthesis and the equipment that I had. It was really hard to learn how to race motorcycles and race them effectively, efficiently, and safely. I never told the racing organizations that I was an amputee. I was scared that they would not include me. There was, they wouldn't let me do it. Oh, this is too dangerous for you. We could lose our insurance. If they knew somebody, it was back in those days where inclusion was not a thing. Like
we're still in these days, right? Go ahead.
We are. We're making progress, not as fast as we may want to. But I said, you know what? What doesn't hurt, what they don't know won't hurt them. Mm-hmm. So let me just keep this on the down low and go out and prove myself first. But like I said, it was very, very difficult to ride a motorcycle, starting off at 112 miles per hour in the quarter mile, eventually making it up to 198 miles per hour in a quarter of a mile, which was my fastest speed. It was hard to do that safely using the technology that I had with the prosthesis and stuff. But I'm going to tell you, and I tell a lot of the students that I talk to, is you struggle is a good thing, because in the struggle, you develop the skill and you develop the strength. And I've learned more. I was telling my daughter this last night. You learn more from your failures than you do your successes. And I failed so many times through my journey, to where I was like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake anymore. I learned something. It's a good thing. Mm-hmm. We got something out of that failure. It was a good lesson, So you do it enough times, you fail enough times, and you get this resume of what not to do, and then you can change your approach. And I changed my approach so many times until I started to develop this skill and this excellence, and it actually helped to elevate me above my competition, because I had to work so much harder. It's kind of like lifting weights. The more weights you lift, stronger your muscles get. I was lifting more weight than my competitors, so I was getting stronger than them. And so I went out in my first year professional competition and won championship, won Pro Rookie of the Year. I'd set 14 world records drag racing. I mean, I was on fire, and nobody knew. It was like nobody knew I was an amputee.
See, I didn't realize that yeah. I thought they knew you.
Oh no, it was my inner circle knew.
Right.
But everybody that I was competing against, they didn't know. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't walk with an obvious limp. But during the award ceremony, when they presented me with Pro Rookie of the Year, my #1 plate for winning the championship, that was in 1989. And that's when I disclosed that I was an amputee, and people's jaws just hit the floor. They were like, there's no way that guy's an amputee. He's got no legs, man. Yeah. And they could not believe it, because they know how hard it is to race these motorcycles going, 190 some odd miles per hour in a quarter.
Double amputee.
Yeah, and not be an amputee. And here you're an amputee and you're doing it very well. And they could not believe it. But there was a message in all that about the power of resiliency. And I started to understand that the good Lord chose all of this for me to use it in his glory, to share this message, to help other people believe in themselves and believe in the inner strength that exists in each and every human being on this planet. A lot of us, we human beings are incredible. We have the power to overcome just about anything that, comes our way, any trauma or any disability. We have that personal power that's inside of us. It's just that a lot of times when we go through life, we don't have the opportunity to tap into that personal power because we don't need to.
We don't have the community.
We don't have the community exactly to share, to show us that power is there. So that's why I use my life as an example. I am no different than any kid. I'm a West Philadelphia born and raised kid. I'm no different than any other kid growing up in this country, growing up in this world, that has fears, I have, I've made failures. I have shortcomings. There's some things that you know, I, I, I'm no different. I'm not Superman. You
But
know,
you are working with kids now, correct? And you're
yes.
working with them. Are they getting prostheses, learning how to use the prostheses, or just in general? I know there was a program you were working with.
So there's a couple of different organizations that I do share my time with. Um, the one organization that I'm spending a lot of time with now is called the Urban Youth Racing School,
Mhm.
and they're just urban kids of all different ethnicities that we provide a motorsports slash STEM based curriculum to help these kids understand that there are options, there are jobs and opportunities available to them in the motorsports industry. Now, these kids are not disabled, physically disabled. We don't have any physically disabled students in our program, but they are, a lot of them are economically challenged,
Mhm.
socially challenged, and we give them pathway to try to come up with opportunities. We open a door for them to go out and find jobs in the motorsports industry. Now, there's other foundations that I work with that are global. We actually go out to different countries and we provide prosthesis and mobility solutions for people who have a disability such as myself. I think it's, here in the United States, we do have a lot of resources, and in the disabled community, we have access to care. But globally, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head right now, but globally, a lot of amputees do not have access to proper care when it comes to getting a prosthesis
Right.
or any type of rehabilitation. A lot of countries, if you have a family member that is disabled, the family will actually push that family member out of the family
Yes.
because you are now a burden on the family. So you have to go out there and figure it out on your own. They'll push them out, and you'll see a lot of people in different countries. I've been to a lot of these countries where you see people on the corners and they're sitting on box tops or they're sitting on pallets, and they're just panhandling or just trying to
Uh-huh.
survive, because they don't have the proper resources. So the foundations that we work with here in the United States, we take a lot of recycled prosthetic components, and we go to, we've been to Haiti. The foundation, I didn't go with them this last time. They just came back from Kenya, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, and we go there and we make prostheses for a lot of these youth that have trauma, youth that have stepped on landmines, undetonated landmines that have been planted for years, that have gone off, and kids have lost their legs. A lot of the kids from Haiti, from the earthquake that was back in 2008, I think it was, and then a lot of the stuff that they've gone through. We provide them walking solutions. So that's something I'm really proud of, being able to work for a corporation that I work for. I work for a company, College Park Industries, and we make prosthetic feet and components and stuff. And any industry or any company, that makes this kind of stuff, they're going to have some surplus.
Right.
And I have a direct access to some of the surplus or some of the components, and I can provide that pathway from the foundation that may need certain components to make legs for people that are in other parts of the country. I mean, I have so many success stories where people contact me on social media saying, "Brother, please, can you help me? I'm missing a leg, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how we're gonna work this out, but we're gonna figure it out." And it may take a few months, and 8 months later, I've got them parts that they need, and 8 months later, they send me a picture of them up and walking, and, "Brother, I got a new job. I'm teaching English in Qatar, and thank you so much for what you're doing." I'm like, "No, thank you for letting me be a blessing to you, and realize my purpose, basically, is what I'm doing." So yeah, it's rewarding work. Doesn't pay a whole lot, but I can be rewarded.
But it pays in your heart and your
Oh,
spirit.
absolutely,
It pays,
absolutely.
and I'm, reading all that you do, and I go, yeah, this can't be just a social impact interview or such a there's so much that you bring into life, into yourself. I want to say thank you. Thank you beyond this
Yeah,
interview, but thank you for everything that you're doing. Like I said, it could have gone so many different ways. And
absolutely.
you've taken your blessings and you've turned around and you making sure others can see that there's so many other paths to this life
It sure is. Yep.
that looks very different. Wow.
Yep.
Reggie, thank you. Before I let you go, because I know you are busy and I appreciate you taking the time, where can people find you? Where's the best option?
So I am on all things social except that X thing. I don't do that. I used to before it became X, but I don't do that anymore. But all things social, Reggie Showers, lifewithreggie.com will take you to some social media links that you can find me at. And yeah, I'm an open book. I'm transparent. Anybody that needs any kind of help, if you have a child or know a family member that is facing disability, I am an open book. Like I said, I'm a resource. Please tap into me. There's 46 years of experience here in the amputee community that is just dying to get out and help somebody. And that's what we do. You know, it takes a village to help people, and I'm part of that village. I'm one of the elders now.
Thank you for being part of the village. Thank you for being a part of the community. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experience, the pain, the pleasure, all of it. And I look forward to seeing you again and following everything that you're doing. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for what you do for our community. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Everyone, as always, thank you for listening and for watching Visibility Unlimited or Visibility Unlimited Spotlight. I look forward to seeing you and speaking to you again soon. As always, you can follow along on all of the Cavu Group social media. Thanks so much. Bye now.